Ashe and grand rising once again to you all, my very beautiful people. Yes, you, my highly enriched melanin people. Yes, you, the Earth's original and organic humans, aka my fellow Africans. It is I, the Mystic Philosopher. And yes, it is quite evident that I'm still here with you on this side of reality. I'm not gone yet. I'm not done. I come, I just come. And welcome back to the Mystic P is talking again on the 15 Minutes with I, the Mystic Philosopher, episode 62. Now, the main topic of these series of talks, as you already know, is stress on the mind, or more correctly, the impact that this thing called stress has on the thing that we humans call mind. And that from I, the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, the solution to this problem or to this disease called stress can, or it may be found in and by understanding, understanding and overstanding the want equation. Namely, want is equal to money, which is equal to stress, which is equal to unhappiness. And also by putting into practice the knowledge that can be gained from this profound equation. And the quote that I'm using and I've been using is from the Adamic Race History and Holy Book in accordance to the 23rd Psalm. I'm using it to illustrate my points. The 23rd Psalm verse 1, it said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Now, and in some of my previous episodes, for those of you who have been following me, I ask that you please meditate on the want equation. Want is equal to money, which is equal to stress, and which is equal to unhappiness for yourselves. And to see what you can or what you may learn and derive from it for yourself again. In other words, evaluate it for yourself and see how it makes sense to you personally. If it makes sense, use what makes sense. Discard what makes sense. Okay? Just think about it. Now, in today's episode, episode 62, I will answer and share some of my perspectives and insight on one of my listeners, a known independent thinker and genuine truth seeker's question. And the question is as follows, and I quote, "Ashe and grand rising to you, my brother, the Mystic Philosopher, and thanks for sharing your unique perspectives and thought-provoking insights with us via this media. You are provoking and encouraging us to think a lot on the things that you are sharing, especially as it pertains to the want equation." Now, my question to you is this: can want cause hypertension? And if the answer is yes, please explain how. I look forward with great anticipation for your answer or for your answer of enlightenment. Unquote. Wow, make me sound big when you send them things to me. Elio, that's fun. First, let me say thanks, my sister or brother, I don't know who this is, for the question and also for your kind words. Secondly, let me also straight up say that yes, want can cause, and want do cause hypertension, aka high blood pressure. Nothing give my high blood pressure than want. Anyway, we get to that. And that from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, 90% or more of all hypertension can or may be directly or indirectly linked to want, to wanting, and to the want equation. And the victims of hypertension, as you know, again, mean high blood pressure, are functioning from the paradigm of want. The other 10% or less may be due to something else, such as genetic defects, heredity, or whatever. However, to answer this question, a very thought-provoking question from this one of my listeners, to answer it at a much deeper level and in an attempt to bring more clarity, especially to others that might not yet get it, please allow me to do a quick recap of some of the things that I have told you in some of my previous talks and in previous episodes as it relates to this particular question. Number one, and one of the first things that I told you and explained to you all, my regular listeners, was and still do, is the want equation. Want is equal to money equals stress equal unhappiness. From which you can quickly see that want is equal to stress. Also, therefore, when you are talking about stress and experiencing stress, you are also talking about want and experiencing want and vice versa. And I also told you that I also told you what I, the Mystic Philosopher, perceive this thing called stress and this thing called mind to be. Number two, I told you that from I, the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, all that we can ever know and all that we may know, or all that we may think we know about mind, or about the thing called mind, is what the mind itself would have us to know or have us to think we know about it. Number three, I told you that mind, or the thing called the mind, is awareness, or that it may be described as being awareness, aka consciousness, and that it permeates the universe and possibly beyond the universe as we think we know it. And that without mind, or the thing called mind, we cannot know that thing, no thing, or anything. Know that thing, we cannot know that thing, no thing, or anything exists. Without mind, we can't. I told you that whatever we think we know is what mind, or what the mind tell us, and what mind or the mind have us to know and intend for us to know. Number five, I told you that from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, I exist in mind and not necessarily mind that exists in I. And that we all exist in the mind and not necessarily the other way around. In other words, you can locate me physically in mind, but you cannot locate mind or my mind in me or in I physically. Now those are some things to think about. Number six, I told you that mind, or the thing called mind, is intangible, it is invisible, it is fluid, it is pliable, flexible, it is non-physical, it is non-material, it is spiritual, it is metaphysical, you name it. In other words, there is no limit to which the mind can be extended or to where it can or it may go. Number seven, let me continue. Number seven, I told you that it, meaning mind, is here, it is there, and it is everywhere, including nowhere. Or that it can be here, or it can be there, and it can be everywhere again, including nowhere, it can be nowhere. And I told you that if I am correct in this my thinking, and if you agree, then we must logically deduce and conclude that it, meaning mind, cannot be contained, and nor can it be stressed. Meaning that we cannot literally capture mind or capture the mind, and nor can we sensibly point to any organ or spot in our body or spot in the world for that matter and say that is mind or here is mind. I told you all these things. Number eight, I told you that the mind, or the thing called the mind, cannot be stressed or stressed out, worn or worn out. In other words, it is not the thing called mind that is stressed or stressed out or worn out, etc. However, that which is commonly called stress on the mind and putting stress on the mind is the effect of pressure, aka the effect of tension that is being exerted on the physical brain, aka the central processing unit for our body, the transmitter and the receiver, or any other sensitive organs in our body that acts as an interface with the intangible mind, with the metaphysical mind. And the mind, aka consciousness or awareness, pick up and interpret it as stress or as pressure or as tension, as pain or as pleasure, etc., etc. Number nine, secondly, I told you that stress, just like the thing called gravity, is a natural phenomenon that eventually exists, that evidently exists within this our known natural and physical world and possibly beyond. I told you and explained to you that whenever we hear the word stress and whenever we are talking about stress, any form of stress for that matter, that we are hearing and that we are talking about some form of pressure, aka tension, that is being exerted on something or on someone. Number 10, I also told you that from my perspective, stress or tension can only be placed on physical objects, tangible and material things. And one example that I use to prove and explain my point is hypertension. According to the World Health Organization, and I quote, hypertension, also known as high or raised blood pressure, is a condition in which the blood vessels have persistently raised pressure. Blood is carried from the heart to all parts of the body in the vessels. Each time the heart beats, it pumps blood into the vessels, unquote. So from this statement of fact alone, we can see that anything and anyone that causes our heart to beat faster or our heart rate to increase also causes more blood to flow to the carriers, aka to the vessels. And if or when excess pressure is put on the vessels, they will rupture or they will break. Number 11, I told you that if I am correct, then the phrase and topic, I did explain this to you, I'm just recapping them. I told you then that the topic or the phrase stress on the mind is not entirely correct, and that it should not be interpreted literally, and that in order for it to make true and rational sense, it has to be seen and interpreted as a metaphor or as metaphorical. And that common sense will tell us that pressure or tension on anything will over time cause it to wear and tear. It will cause discomfort, and that it will eventually break or destroy it. Number 12, I told you that in order to control stress, which stress by now you know is a physical thing, we must first know, understand, and understand what is causing our heart rate to increase beyond its natural rhythm. Number 13, I told you that from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, want, or the thing called want, stress is the culprit. Yes, stress is the culprit. Number 14, I told you that from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, the solution to this problem, to this disease called stress, may be found by understanding, understanding, and overstanding the want equation, namely want is equal to stress, which is equal to money, which is equal to unhappiness. And also by putting into practice the knowledge that can be gained from this profound equation. Number 15, and I told you that the subtotal of this equation is in the command and commandment. Thou shalt not want, you shall not want, I shall not want, we shall not want, and nor should we be found wanting. As to the last part of the question, and if the question is, and I quote, if the question is yes, please explain how. Meaning, how does want cause hypertension or high blood pressure? I will explain in another episode, maybe in episode 63, because I'm running for time now. So please stay tuned for that explanation. So thus far today, in this episode, I honestly think that I have given you, or at the very least, I honestly think that I may have given some of you, if not all of you, a lot more to think about and possibly a lot more to look forward to in the next episode, especially as it relates to stress, the seed called want, and of course the want equation, etc. And so, in the interest of time, I think I should just pause here. I have to stop here for today and ask that you please join me if or when next I'm talking again, possibly in episode 64, where and when I will be talking and sharing with you some more of my perspectives and insight on the magical, mystical, and metaphysical aspect of the word want and the command and commandment want. You shall not want. And hopefully continue answering the question and giving more examples of how do I get rid of want, and by extension stress and stresses. For I shall not want, you shall not want, and nor should we be found wanting. In the meantime and between time, please let me again remind you, my beloved people, that yesterday's history too is dead and gone, no more to come back. Tomorrow is a mystery, it too may never come, but today is a gift, which is why we call it the present and the present day. And so I hereby implore you, I'm imploring you to live for today, and by live I mean claim your natural birthright. And just in case you don't know, or you may have forgotten what that is, it is your happiness and full joy today. And let's hope for tomorrow, for it too may never come, for you or for I. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I say. Ashe.